Perfect.
Hi.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to CADA TrueMax's 3D Bootcamp. This is our third week, so today we will be doing texturing. On our Instagram, we had a poll running on whether we should texture a sword or an axe, and sword came out on top this time. So I have made this lovely scimitar for you that we will be texturing today. There's a little bit of bone, there's some cloth. We can texture this as metal or however we want. It's going to be great fun. So, to start with, let's just get over the navigation inside Blender and see how that works in case you've forgotten. So, middle mouse click. Oh, let me just turn on my screencast keys for everybody. There you go. And people here do not have... Sorry about this. There you go, you should see my mouse cursor. So, to pan around inside 3D, we will hold down middle mouse click. This will allow us to pan around in our 3D scene. If we hold shift and middle mouse click, we can move from side to side, and up and down, diagonally, all we want. Control and middle mouse click, that is zooming in smoothly. If you're on a mouse, you can also scroll on your scroll wheel. That will take you up and down in steps. So this is generally how we navigate inside of Blender. So let us start texturing this. To do that, we need to select the sword. So we're going to left click on it. And then up here in the top of our screen, we have different tabs. One of these tabs is called Texture Paint. This is the one we want to go into. Boop. Our sword should now turn bright pink. That is because it doesn't have a texture applied to it, and it doesn't have, like, we can't paint on it right now. Out here on the left-hand side, we have a UV unwrap that I've done for you. It's a little bit messy, but we'll work with it, don't worry. That got messed up at some point. Because we want to use this to paint on. And to paint on this, we need to apply an image to it. So in here, on our left-hand side, where we have our UV, we can go into the top and we can click this new button here. This will prompt us to create an image. I'm going to call mine sword text, short for texture. And let us set the size to 2K. So 1024 times 2 is 2048. There you go. This just gives us a higher resolution of texturing. So this, of course, is also heavier, but it gives us more ability to do details before we get pixelation on it. We're going to click OK. And our screen will be black and jump into us. So right now, we can paint all we want in here, but it's not showing up on our object. And that's kind of sad because we do want to paint on our object. That's because the image we have made has not been applied to our object yet. So we have to apply it, but before that, let's save it because this image is actually separate from our project. So still here on the left-hand side, we're going to hit Image, and we're going to say Save As, and then save it wherever you want to. I'm going to save it here, save sword texture, PNG, there you go. And this is just because if your Blender crashes, or if you close down Blender by accident, that means your image texture won't be saved unless you do this. It's not going to be saved with your Blender file, it's going to be saved separately. Now, after we've saved it, we're going to apply it to our object. To do this, we need to go into our Material Properties tab. It's out here in the right-hand side. It's this little ball with a checker on it. Now in here, we see what is called a shading node. This is our principled BSDF inside Blender, AI standard in Maya, so on and so forth. And this is what decides how or what images are applied as textures and how should my material behave towards light. So what we want to do here is we want to find our base color, that's this one, and we want to click the little yellow dot next to it and find the option called Image Texture. Oop. So click the little yellow dot, Image Texture. This will bring up this little extra options where we can say Open, New, or here there's this little image drop-down menu, and in here we can actually find our sort text. This is because any file we've loaded into Blender is now in the local memory. So we can just click here to find files we have inside Blender already for us. So I'll click that, and our sort has now turned black. That means we can now start painting on it. Now I've done a computer game trick to this unwrap. Well, that's not good. Where I have layered one side on top of the other here on the main body, which means when I texture that part, the same texture will be applied to the other side. This is a way to save space on your texture map and to speed up texturing. I haven't done it to the top because we want to add a little bit of asymmetry to it. So that's just the reason why I did that, but it allows us to work with it a little bit more dynamically. All right, so by default, we are on our paintbrush here, and the options for that is hidden inside this little arrow. We can click that, or you can click N on your keyboard. This will also bring it up. And in here we can decide, let's do like that, there you go. We can decide what color we're painting with, and we also have some other options that we're gonna get into in a second. So when I do this, I like to paint inside my texture paint area, not on my object, because this is a little bit wonky. It's screen-based projection. But yeah, so I know from the concept art made by Serpetim, oh, his last name had a lot of weird letters I don't know how to pronounce, I'm sorry. There's a concept art called Serpetim who did the original concept for this, and it's bone. So I'm gonna go for a slight bone-ish color. I'm gonna pick a beige off-white thing. I think I'm gonna go a little bit pink. And the first thing I wanna do here is I wanna lay down a base layer for my blade. And from there, I'm gonna go darker and I'm gonna go lighter later, but to begin with, I just want a base layer. So I can start painting this base layer in. And once I lift off my pen and I've, completed my brush stroke, we can then see it gets applied to our object. Like so. You can see, I get that. This takes a lot of time with our basic size. So if we hold down F, we can change the size of our paintbrush. I'm just gonna paint in every part of the blade here. That's gonna be these parts, and originally I think these parts here are actually supposed to be blades as well. Yes, they are. So I'm gonna paint them in as well. Pretty much everything but the cloth is going to have this bone color, bone texture. Just gonna make sure it's a little bit flat. There we go. Oh, there's a part that shouldn't have. That's this part. We'll clean that up later. Don't worry too much about it. So just filling that in. Boop, 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 boop. And of course you are allowed to go wild with this. You don't have to follow my texturing. You can do it blue, you can do it metallic, you can do it whatever color you want. All right. So after having done this, because Blender's texture paint doesn't really have an eraser, I'm going to use our different colors as erasers for when I want to blend them together. To do this, we have to create a color palette so we can always get back to the exact same color. So beneath our color picker here, we can say color palette, and here we can create a new color palette. Doop. I'll just call this sword palette, like so, which also means if we're doing a larger project where everything has to have the same color profile, we can make one palette and we can import it into different projects, right? So here I'm just going to click the little plus button, and this will add my currently picked object or color to my palette. So this means I have a quick way of always getting back to this color, right? And that's awesome because finding the exact same color again can be a little bit of a hassle sometimes. Next thing I want to do is I want to add a highlight. I'm going to add this on the sharper part of the blade. So I'm going to go a little bit more whitish, a little colder even, so we could move our white into either a purple area. Let's see what that looks like. Yeah, I don't hate that. Yeah, I'm going to move it into a little bit of a purple area. Just like teensiest, tiniest bit. Really not that big. And the reason for this is I want the contrast between the base color and the sharpened part of the blade to be higher. And I can achieve that by having the base color be warmer and then the highlight color be colder. And this will not just create a contrast in the color itself, but also in the temperature of the color, and will be easier to read for the viewer of it. So I'm going to take this color, I'm going to paint it in on my blade. You can see already now we're getting a nice transition between sharp and base. And of course I need to do the same thing for the top. I need to do this twice because this one is separate, like so. And oh yeah, our controls from inside the Blender 3D viewport also work inside our painting space. So I want to do this one fairly. That might be filled in a little bit too much. Yeah, it's filled in a little bit too much. So I'm just going to add my highlight to my palette, and then I'm going to go back to my base color and clean this highlight up a bit on my tip, because I got a little bit too energetic with it and it feels a little bit too much for what I have in my mind, like so. I'm going to check both sides. Yeah, that's all right. All right. And that gives us that nice, sharp, honed part of a sword. Or I guess this is technically a scimitar. And yeah. So I can go in. Oh, nope. Go back to my highlights. There we go. And with our highlights still selected, we can find other parts of our object we want to highlight. So for example, these corners here are fairly sharp, so we can highlight them just a little bit to give them that feeling of wear and tear that corners of things get a lot. So I know this part is this part on my unwrap, so I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna zoom in, I'm gonna change my size to not being very big. I'm just gonna quickly go over this with some nice light brush strokes. You can see we're now getting that little bit of highlight. We're going to refine it later, but for now, this is giving us a very nice little highlight. Boop. And we can do it for other edges as well. So I know this one is this one. So that one can also get a little bit of highlight, a little bit of wear and tear. You can vary up your brush size to also vary the size of the wear and tear to give it more interest. Go, let's see that. That's actually quite fine. And of course, we're going to do the same thing to the top of the blade. Boop, boop, boop. And let's see which way is that. That's not that ledge. So let's undo that. Control Z to undo. And then just take it down there. That is what we want. And the same thing on the other side. It's this one. Don't be afraid to make mistakes. I understand and I know all too well the idea that every brush stroke must be perfect when you do it. So therefore, I'm not going to do it until I have the perfect brush stroke. But honestly, it's more of a process. Try things out, just like with sculpting. The more you try out, the more you experiment, the better you will be and the better your product will be, because something you might not have thought about will suddenly become a very nice thing. All right. So you think your stroke is dragging? Yeah, there's a lazy mouse, but I do not remember what the hotkey is for it. All right. Yes. So Sian, I hope I'm pronouncing that all right, is having a problem with her strokes are like dragging. And what I think it is stabilized stroke or lazy mouse. That is where it's going to try and stabilize your brush strokes a little bit. And that's, if you go under stroke here, you can open that up, scroll down, you can find stabilized stroke. Just, you can have it on if you want to, or you can turn it off if you don't want to. Giuseppe, no. The only way of doing that would be in the UV editor, and that doesn't work like that, sadly. So my best guess is doing identifiers, so actually painting in like a little mark that will show you where is this. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Then we can see. So, all right. So we have added in our highlights. Well, not our extreme highlights, but just our medium layer highlights. But before, yeah, so let's add in our extreme highlights now. These are the parts that are like extremely sharp or extremely worn. It can also be nicks and like little bumps and hurts. And for you guys as beginners, you can use just pure white. And you can see here, it's actually showing up fairly nice as just a little bit of variation, a little bit of extra white shine on our blade's edge. Boop. I'm just gonna paint that in on the absolute edges here, because this is the parts of the blade that have been sharpened. So that means even though we've removed a bunch of material up here, this isn't really sharp, it's just worn down. But out here, where it is sharp, I really want that part to stand out a lot more. All right. And of course we can add that to our palette, but it is just a white color, so yeah. Stina Street is asking how to make your brush more solid or more fuzzy. Hers is very solid, not soft. If you're sitting on a mouse, you have this option of strength where you can turn this down and your brush will become more opaque. It will become more see-through. It won't have as much effect on things. If you're sitting on a tablet, you have this little button which is controlling your opacity based on how much pressure you're putting on things. I don't really use it that much. So you can always go back and forth on your strength and make the adjustments you need to with it. So just gonna look over, is there anywhere? Yes, we want to add a little bit more interest to our wear and tear. So we added an overall wear and tear right now, which is just this, our mid-tone. So with our extreme highlight, with our white, what we want to do is we want to add some streaks or like some nicks that are meant to be cuts into the blade. This is scratches and stuff like that to our wear and tear here. You can see here, going up, that's where it is. It's a little bit too much. So go back and remove it with some base color. You can even fade it in a little bit with some base color. There we go. There we go. Back to our extreme highlight. And just gonna add some scratches, some random scratches back and forth around this. You can also add some that go with the edge to like give a part of the edge an extreme highlight so that that part specifically, come on, let go, there you go, is actually a bit sharp. Oh, let's do that. All right, so Modes online on the chat is asking if it's possible to use the eyedropper to pick colors. Yes, if you hold down S and left click, you will actually pick a color and that will be applied to your palette directly. Oh, there you go. So if you do want to use an eyedropper to pick a color somewhere, if you have a nice gradient or mid-tone between two things, you can just go in, you can add a little bit of extra to it. And I'm just going to go through here, add a little bit of wear and tear, like so. And yeah, so what we're really trying to do is, since we're doing hand painted, we're doing stylized textures, we're trying to get a little bit of realism in there, but not enough that it looks realistic, because that's sort of the point about stylization, is it's not realistic, it's just enough to fake the realistic details we expect to be in there. So I'm just gonna do this, and I'm being quite rough with it. Like, a lot of these are just squiggles back and forth and not super precise things. And that's because it doesn't really need to be at this point. We're going to start smudging and softening this up later. And to do that, yeah, we need these colors already there. But for now, just adding a little bit, you can also add some scratches like on the actual blade. That's gonna add a little bit of visual detail, like that one. Some visual interest, a nice little bit of detail on it. Adds a bit too much. I think just those two is good. Let me go down here and add, yeah, like that. And it is really just trying things out, testing things out. Like, does this look the way I want it to? No, then do it again. I used to teach art to teenagers, and it was the worst thing in the world to look at their faces. Like, this doesn't look the way I want it to. All right, well, try again. Try to make it look like you want to. And then just seeing the defeat in their faces that I didn't have the absolute solution to just add a line or a slash of color somewhere to fix it. But the fix was actually doing something again, doing it again, trying it again, and, you know, until you get the result you want, until you get the desired result. All right. So, don't like that. Don't like that. Don't like that at all. Let's remove it. Oh. Me delete my plate when trying to delete one. Oh, yeah. So in case you want to remove something from your palette, somebody online is having problems with this. It's not the X symbol here. This will delete your palette. It's this minus, so whichever one you have selected in your palette, you hit the minus, and that one will then be removed. So, yeah. I will get to your question later, Jasmine, but for now, I will just head on here. Oh, I forgot about these little bone nubbins at the bottom. Just gonna give them a little bit of lovin', a little bit of highlight there. And let's give them just some scratches. Don't want to give them an extreme highlight, but I do want to give them a little bit of scratches to show they have some texture. Like so. And we have, of course, have some more parts here that we can just add some visual interest to. My main focus, because this is a sword, will be the blade, because that is generally where people will focus a lot of their attention, and the handle, so where you hold, because we can get some nice contrast in there with color. So whatever material we have here, I personally, and this is a personal preference, I like having a little bit of contrast between the material of the blade and the handle of the blade. So I tend to go for either contrasting or complementary colors, just to make them that much prettier. All right. So that is the base color and the highlight and the extreme highlight. Now I want to add a little bit of shadow in here. So this is both, I want to add some shadow to make our highlights even more stand out-ish, and I want my some of my recesses, some of my more hidden areas to be darker so that they're a bit more shadowy, and again adding contrast to my design. So I'm going to take my base color, and instead of picking a new color on my base wheel, I'm simply going to remove the amount of white, or as the technical term, I'm going to remove a lot of the value from my color. So it's the same color, but it just doesn't have as much light in it. And this is a good way, again, to keep cohesion within your object and within your color palette, to just add or to take your colors and either lighten them or darken them, which means it's the same colors, but they're just darker, and that helps, again, overall cohesion. I think if you're a game designer, it's called internal cohesion for things. So just gonna add a bunch of, oh, I want to be careful that I'm not painting over a lot of my extreme highlights here. I want even less strength. Just a little bit of darkness. Just to make the light stand out more. There we go. And Again, fairly sloppy with my brush strokes. We're doing a very early iteration and just blocking in a bunch of colors here. There we go. That's where I wanted. And I'm always checking on my 3D model because something can look great in here but not look great on my 3D model, which means it doesn't look great because the application is still, this is still meant to only be on the 3D model, which then means even though my texture work or my painting work is beautiful, because it needs to be applied, it needs to have a use. It's not actually going to be that pretty. Oh, just gonna go around a few places. Well, that's not good. That shouldn't happen. Oh well. Yep. Just gonna darken this down a little bit, get this really in there. Add a little bit extra dark. You can see here my strength isn't very high. I'm really going back and forth between my strength setting to get different values, to get different amounts and saturations of color in my thing. Because variation, if you want something to look natural, even though things are stylized, having them look natural is still very important. And one of those things that make things look natural is variation in a surface. So, just gonna go in here, clean a little bit up, sharpen up some of these edges, and there we go. So, we've done this for the blade, and don't worry, we're not done with the blade. We're just sort of finished with the block out of the color, which means we can turn our attention to the handle instead. Because we're working with this off-white beigey color, I'm going to try and see if a saturated red, I'm going to go all the way down into the red. I'm going to go about 2/3 up of my value step, so that allows me to have a red that is highlight and a even deeper red as a base afterwards. I'm just going to try and color in my handle for this. So like I said, I'm just trying things out here. I want to see if this looks good on my object before I commit completely. And hey, it might not. It might look really good, but it might also look really bad. Boop. So. Hoppy is asking if there's a hue selection if you want to change specific colors you're good at using. No, sadly not. Blender's texture painter here is very basic and missing a lot of things, but that doesn't mean we cannot learn the principles of how to texture things. The reason why we're using Blender is because I could start showing things off in Photoshop, but not everybody has Photoshop. I could then start showing things off in Affinity. Same thing applies. People will use different texture softwares. So it's better for me to just show the basics here and then explain the principles. What is it I'm doing? Why am I doing this and this and this? And then you can apply that. You can even take this into, like the image we have saved out here. Once we go up here to image and we click save or save as, you should all do this, by the way, because if your Blender crashes, your image edits won't apply. I can take that image into an image editor and do whatever it is I want to, and then save that out and apply inside Blender. All right. I don't fully love this red color, so I'm gonna see if it works better if I go into a bit more orange. I think that's gonna give it more like earthy tones to fit with the base colors and stuff like that. Boop. That might be very leathery. I think I want an area between the two colors I just worked with. Do, 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 do. There, I think this is the red color I really like. Leonie is asking if it's possible to texture your barrel. It is. You know, let me return to that one at the end, because it's a bit more.
No, let's talk about that now.
Unwrapping?
That's why I'm here.
Oh dear God! All right, Mito, take us away.
But I'm gonna do the easy version of it, because the other version is complicated when you don't know anything about it. So, well, okay, unwrapping is a thing. What you're looking at and what you're painting on is the unwrap of the sword. What we do is that when we want to texture things, we have to go in and manually unwrap whatever object we've created in 3D by basically cutting it out at specific places and then projecting it on a 2D image. That's like the general idea of unwrapping, which is what you can see in the texture or on the sword we have and we're painting on right now. That's basically, as you might have guessed, the sword that we have, but projected as a 2D image.
Yeah, it's been unfolded, so imagine you have a box. Boxes are built up so that you can fold them in together. So you can do that with all 3D objects. It's just different ways of projecting and doing it.
It's like when you Google how to make a cardboard small box thing because you want to make something cute for a friend or something because you want to put something in it. Like that classic image of just a box folded out. And that's basically what we do in 3D as well. Just a bit easier. You don't need scissors. Thankfully, the program has that.
Blender actually has a really good unwrapper. I tend to... Unwrapping is the first more abstract principle you will learn when learning 3D, because it's the first one that's sort of like, why are we doing this? Why is this not working the way I intended it? And it's simply because it's sort of weird, but also it's all based on a bunch of math that doesn't really work properly, which is why we unwrap by hand a lot of the time, and no auto unwrapper really gets into it properly.
But usually people don't really want to unwrap because it's mostly just tedious because you kind of just want to either keep modeling or something. So, but for some people it can be quite relaxing and nice just to sit and do some unwrapping when you're kind of tired of modeling.
I am one of those people.
Right.
Well,
Widow?
A good unwrap, I would say, really pays off.
Yeah, okay, so our IT guy is saying, yeah, a good unwrap really pays off. Very true, because as you can see on this sword, as an example, it can be kind of hard to figure out what parts of the sword is what, like on the 2D image that we have. So you kind of have to look at the sword, paint something, and then make sure that that's where we're painting. While a good unwrap can make it really easy to figure out where all these different parts of the unwrap or the model is on this 2D image. So it can save a lot of time. So preferably we do it manually. So here comes my point of talking now, is that if you do want to unwrap your barrel and texture paint your barrel at some point, and you don't want to go through the hassle of learning how to
unwrap,
UV unwrap, Blender does have an auto unwrapper. I don't know how to, but go on YouTube, search auto unwrap in Blender, and then it's probably going to give you the most simple tutorial on how to unwrap whatever object you have.
I will show you guys here.
Or he can do it there.
I can show you guys here.
Because then you don't have to go in and do it manually. And then after that, when you have that UV unwrap on the model, you basically do the exact same process as what we did just now with this sword, and then it's gonna work.
All right, so I'm just going to show you guys how to or how to do the auto unwrap thing. So I've taken a duplicate of my sword here. So this is the one I'm painting on. This is the duplicate. Up in the top, next to our texture painting, we have UV editing. Right now it has the same unwrap as I did. If you select every face on your model, you right click. Nope, sorry, that's a different one. You press U, and then it has this Smart UV Project. You click on that, and you click OK. It will then unwrap your object automatically.
It's that easy? Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Sick.
Yeah.
I haven't tried auto unwrapping in Blender. I haven't tried unwrapping in Blender.
It's not great.
But it's fine.
It's fine.
See, all right, and that works. And now with that, you basically do the exact same thing as you did with the sword. So you go in, you create a texture.
Yeah. Do note that textures, because they are 2D images, the unwrap, if you auto unwrap something that already has texture paint on it, the image will no longer fit.
Yeah.
It doesn't transfer. Right? Oh. I need to go back to this one, texture painting. There we go. So yeah, that is an auto unwrap. It does also mean, in case somebody hasn't accidentally done it, you can actually paint on your object. I think I mentioned earlier that I prefer to paint on my texture painting workspace out here, but you can actually paint directly on your model if you want to.
I prefer doing that, to be honest.
That is okay.
Because again, the UV set can become very confusing.
Yeah.
As to where things are. So being able to paint directly on the model just seems more convenient to me, at least.
Yeah.
IT guy has a question.
It's just from the chat. There's one asking that he has a little bit of problem with getting a complete white color on the palette, and apparently he has a problem that it looks a little bit skin-like or pink.
Yeah, so you probably have just a little bit of value one way or the other. If you want to reset to complete white, the quickest and most precise way I know of is taking your value slider and so this is blue right now, dumping it into black and then back up to white.
Oh, that's dumb.
Yeah, and this should keep you in your white color, like so.
Also, there's a question. I don't know if you've answered this. Let me know if you have it. Is there a hue selection if you want to change specific colors? Okay, you haven't answered it?
I did answer it, and that's the one where you have to take it into a photo editor. But because we don't, anybody following along doesn't have we can't make sure that everybody at home has Affinity or has Photoshop and stuff like that.
Okay. I wasn't following.
That's fine.
But I remember using that.
But just to make sure that everybody has the same tools available to them, that's why we're sticking to the Blender Texture Painter. It's a democratizing of tools. It's a unification of artists. Free tools for everybody.
There's an option where it shows your brush circle on the 3D model, so you can see what you're about to paint. Well, no, not if you're doing it on the UV, but if you're doing it on the actual model, then. But you probably figure that out when we talked about you being able to paint directly on the model. Again, I prefer that. I think it's way more intuitive, because you don't have to guess.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's sitting and guessing things.
No, I know.
Well, yeah, sure, because you're learning, right?
But also at the same time, there's nothing wrong with making an indicator. I need to find this part of my model. I'll make a bright color that allows me to see where it is. I can't. Oh, it's down there.
Yeah.
No, it's not. That's on the other one.
Oh.
There's nothing wrong with making an indicator that allows you to try and find something and then just painting it over later.
Where was it?
It's in there.
Oh, okay.
It's inside the shaft.
I see.
Because this one is that one. What is this one then?
All right, cool. That was it from me.
Yeah.
Have fun, guys.
Say bye-bye to Mito teacher.
For now.
All right. So just painting in, doing a little bit of lovely work. All right. All right. So I found my red color here. Now I've done a little bit of modeling pre-work to help our shading on this. So you can see it actually does have these sharp folds on it. And those I want to be my shadow parts. I want those to be blacker or darker. And they're quite easy to spot on your UV unwrap because they are the areas where it is very dense. So it's this area right here. It's very, very dense and allows us to do a very nice little dark shadow on it. I need a little smaller. Don't worry too much about getting this too correct. We can always fix up later. I'm just gonna do like this. And gonna add one here. I think that is actually it for that one. Boop. And this part has been, is that the right part? It is not the right part. This part's been stretched out a little bit too much. So we're just gonna try and find where this is. Oh, it's because it's, yeah, okay, of course. I forgot how I model this. All right, so just gonna do like that and like that. I made this ages ago. All right, so that next thing to do is then our highlights. And I want my highlights to be a bit more centered around the front here. So I'm going to do something like this. Oh, that's very garish. Let's turn down our strength and just add a little bit of highlight. This is fabric, this isn't honed. So this is just, again, this is sort of wear and tear, but it's a different material, so the wear and tear is more spread out. And that's sort of one of those things you got to be aware of when you texture things, is your different materials won't wear and tear the same way. Copper and gold don't oxidize the same way. Gold doesn't oxidize at all, but copper does. Iron and copper doesn't oxidize the same way, and it looks different from one another. And being aware of these materials, the materials we're working with, and trying to emulate or stylize, and what they look like will actually help us a lot to convey those materials out. So we know this is fabric. We know that, well, it's going to start to get worn. It's going to start to lose a bit of color. So we can actually desaturate our color just a little bit here. Start adding that in. And we want these scratches, because it's softer elements, we want those to be more spread out. We want the wear and tear to be everywhere and not just concentrated on sharp cracks or sharp nicks in the material. Like so. And let me add that. And then I'm just going to go back in and I'm going to make some random dots. I'm just quickly clicking down on things to add a lot of variation in the surface. I'm not doing this in any particular pattern. I'm really trying to get as random as I can with this. Just to add a lot of, oh, it's lovely. I got the Diablo soundtrack in here now. Click, 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 click. So, just gonna. Yeah, it does sound like a computer. So Jasmine is asking, auto unwrap also for the 3D character I want to sculpt. No, you don't. Sculpts are something you use to create a base shape with which you then retopologize. And that's going to take too long. But retopologizing is just creating a more usable model that you can then project your sculpt onto as details. Wait, did Jeff answer that already? Which? Yep. So there we go. All right. So we have filled in the base colors, we filled in our shades, we filled in our highlights, all of this good stuff. It's taken a while, but you know, all good artwork does. And now we're going to start using my favorite two tools inside Blender's texture painter. That is the soften tool. This is a blur tool pretty much, so you can blur your different things between each other. And this will just make everything a little bit softer. It'll make the corners gradiate into each other. It's just really nice, quick run over everything like so. Because I want to blur things, I don't like my harsh transitions between things. There are a few of the scratches that I want to keep. As you can see in here, while Mito was talking, I added some scratches in my highlights. I want to keep those sharp because I really want those to stand out compared to everything else. So again, that's a different way we can make things stand out when we texture paint, is having soft transitions or hard transitions between things. And it's just a lovely little tool that'll do most of the work for us. So if you like a little bit more of a hands-on approach with this, instead of having a blur or soften function, then there's the smudge tool, which I think is just absolutely lovely. Because I don't use the smudge tool as a smudge tool, I actually kind of use it as a painting tool. So smudge tool just allows us to grab things and then like move them around like so, as you can see here. It is the third tool out here, in case you were wondering what I clicked on to get it. It's this little finger dragging across something. And I use it like this. I'll drag things. It's especially for creating transitions. I'll drag things back and forth, and then I will actually shape my colors or my transitions into desired forms. It's also really good if you're doing if you want to do Damascus steel, you can create these lovely transitions, these little nooks and crannies and stuff like that. And for all of the mistakes Blender has, the smudge brush is just good. It works. It just works. So this allows me to just move things around to create better transition. And there we go. Oh, let's turn this down. Checking my 3D model. Am I completely out of whack or is it still working? Let's just... Oh, that's why I'm not seeing any differences. I'm the wrong place. So, yeah. Getting this nice warm color in here because our colors are being mixed together in our shadow. And of course, we can also move things around. So we can also use this just to sharpen up the different parts of our texturing, of our material painting here. So if we want to like sharpen up these dark edges, we can do that by just pushing them instead of having to paint in. And that can also give us a little bit more randomness in the surfaces. That is just lovely because randomness is natural, and randomness is something that the human mind doesn't like to create. So when we paint and we draw and we do things, we have a tendency to want to do patterns, but then when we look at it, it looks weird. Oh, this one might actually be useful for everybody. So, in case anybody is looking at their object and thinking, that's very shiny, that's not what I want, we can actually turn down that shininess. So if we go into our material properties again, here where we added base color and stuff like that, we can go down, we can find the one called roughness. As you can see right now, it's set to 0.5. Just turn that bad boy up and your object... Have I changed the settings on this scene? Oh, no. If you turn that bad boy up and switch to material preview mode, viewport shading up here, you will see what your material actually looks like. You can also press Z, and here you can see the different material viewers. And if you go into material preview, you will see what your material actually looks like. Doop, doop, doop. So that's just if you want to get that shine gone and you don't like it there. So just gonna go back to getting a little bit more. Material preview. Hold Z nede, tryk 2. All right. Yes, you can also turn up more shine by turning down the roughness and up the specularity. This will turn your object into chrome. Oh, metallic's actually different. Metallic's here. That will remove your color almost. Yeah, it's great fun to play with these. All right. So, just gonna pull around. So, I'm just gonna work a little bit more on mine. I think everybody should feel free to do that. While I do that, I would like to give my word to Christian, our moderator and IT guy for the evening, as well as Mito, because they have a few messages to give out. And that's a perfect time for me to just sit back, play a little bit. I've explained all the steps I'm gonna take while they are going to talk and give a few messages.
Awesome. Mm-hmm.
Here, you can have my mic. Welcome to the professional stream.
Yeah, welcome to the
forgot.
professional stream.
What am I doing here? I forgot.
So,
you are giving shoutouts.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to go first or should I? All right, I'll go first.
Yeah.
So, to the people who are present as well here today, who wasn't physical, we did a competition last week.
Oh, yeah.
Where we were making a dragon, and it was a combination of an owl and a praying mantis. And what we gave the opportunity is that you could go into our Discord channel. We had a bootcamp channel specifically to share your awesome work, and lots of people shared cool stuff in there. And I told, because I like to play Dungeons and Dragons, and we do Dungeons and Dragons here at the school, and I would choose one of them as that we can 3D print. And then actually, what is quite cool that I had to chat with Chalfe, that he would actually assist me painting it as well in real life, so I can use it to absolutely slay some adventurers with the dragon. And the winner is Hobby, I think is the name. It was also a fan favorite on the Discord channel.
Absolute adorable unicorn.
Yes, with the eyelashes, and I can't wait to give that murderous dragon a cute spin on it.
Yeah,
so
that's fun.
So, Hobie, I will contact you as a private message so I can get my hand on your file, and then we'll 3D print it paint it, and yeah, we can show you some cool pictures when it's done, and then it's gonna be a cool little statue that we're gonna have here at the school. So
Heck yeah.
yeah, awesome. Also, next week we're
Oh,
having
right. Oh,
we're having open house. So if you live in Copenhagen or somewhere nearby where it's easy accessible by train, bus, or bike, or however you means of transport, we're having open house where you can come and learn about the school. Us students are going to be there as well, and we're going to show some of the cool stuff that we made. And yeah, you can just ask us questions.
yeah. It starts at. When does it start?
Open house starts with open house presentation at 5 with our head of education, Adam, who will explain what the education is about, how we teach, how we learn, all that stuff. And then afterwards at 6, there will be a bootcamp in animation. That also means that for all y'all at home who are not going to be able to make it here physically, bootcamp next week is delayed by 1 hour. So we will be starting at 6 instead of 5. And for the rest of you who are going to come to open house, we are looking forward to seeing you. And you get a talk with the rest of the students and seeing all the student work and stuff like that presented to you.
Yeah. And also, Sian, I can see I'm gonna kill that monster in D&D. No, I think the adventurers is gonna have a tough time with the adorable.
Absolutely demolish it.
It's probably
Like, big time dead. Sorry, did I interrupt?
Nope.
And for the open house, we will have different stations at open house where we will put up some of the students' work that you guys can come and look at. So like from previous students, or like students that are students at the time, from different semesters and years. So you can see what we do on the different semesters, where we will be some students standing around and showing it off, talking to people. Yeah, all that good stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Stinastri. Sorry if I'm butchering your online handle. We are doing another open house, which is gonna be in May.
Yeah.
So if you can't make it to that time, then you can also note that bootcamp will reoccur in May as well. And then, as per usual, our last bootcamp session, which is animation, which is your expertise.
Yep.
Then you have the possibility to visit us there as well, and we're also gonna be there to.
And with that being said, I just got greenlit that if you would allow it, I will teach animation next week.
Yes.
Oh.
I will
So
very much allow that.
Sick.
Yeah, because I have been keeping this a secret. I'm not an animator. I don't like animation. And that's okay. I know how to animate. I'm not very good at it, but I can do it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'll be taking over next week as the main teacher, and then he can walk around and help people.
And kind of
So-
crash the stream now and then, just be like, "Did you know?"
Yeah,
With cool facts and
all that good stuff.
yeah.
So yeah, I will. Hopefully, I won't disappoint.
Yeah.
Um,
Actually, just a quick little extra thing. Stina, it's actually possible to come visit the school if you are like considering starting and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
It is possible to come book a meeting with both either the headmaster, have a talk about everything going on, what your situation's like, stuff like that. It's also possible to book a meeting with me, and I'll take time out of my schedule to show you around and to introduce you to some students and stuff. Head of education had one today, so we are very open to meeting people and being hands-on, because we believe that the best way of learning is with a guiding hand, and introducing you to that through us is the good way of doing it.
I would also take meetings, but I don't think I am legally allowed to do that because I'm not a teacher.
You're still a student, bro.
Yeah, but like to show, aren't you talking about like actual meetings that they can come and?
Yes.
I think it's very much official.
Yeah, I think we need official people for that. I
Oh.
can still talk to you guys if you want. It's cool.
I mean, we're still at the school, so I mean, if they come by in
Yeah.
in school hours, I mean, definitely just try and scope us out or ask the teachers if we are present, then we should definitely come and say hi.
Heck yeah.
Also, Leone, absolutely, you're gonna see the results of the creature. So as soon as it's been done, it's been 3D printed and it's been painted. I would like to point out that Chalfa is absolutely amazing at painting.
I'm okay.
Well, you painted my 3D print.
Yeah.
I mean, and I would just say that you are a very skilled artist. So yeah, so Hopi's dragon is in good hands.
Sick.
Depending on when we get the file, I'll see if we can get the 3D print set over the weekend, and then we can start painting it up next week, and we'll show it off on stream when it is done.
Hopefully you still have the actual file and can send it our way. Hopefully.
Absolutely.
Hopefully. Oh yeah.
Miguel, is it all right if we put a pin in that and talk about it in the last 15 minutes, where it's like a Q&A portion?
30 minutes.
30 minutes. All right.
Yeah.
Q&A portion where we will sort of take that those questions there and talk about it.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that will be all for our announcements. I'll jump back on the other side of the screen. So, but good to see all of you.
Yeah. All right. So let's get back to it a little bit. So as you can see, I've been smudging things out. It works extremely well down here with these smudgy, grainy, quick movements. I still have some hard paint strokes here and there, and I just want to make sure that every paint stroke, except those tiny, minute scratches up here, those I really want to keep sharp. I really want to keep them here. I want to make sure that there's a consistency across my object when I texture these. So I don't want every paint stroke, every scratch to be super hard, but I do want them to be visible. So I'm just going to drag them out, smudge them out, soften them so that they become more integrated, more biologically, and pretty blended into things. I'm aware that this isn't going to be 100% perfect, but I'm going to get as far as I can get with it, and then we can go in, we can add a little bit of extra fun and detail to it later. There, gotta take these, gotta take that. So, yeah, I think it's nice for everybody to see you, Christian. I think it's the first time you've actually been on stream. More or less.
I mean, a little bit, a few times, but
Yeah.
I'm more been just like pestering you with questions about what the difference between a wyvern and a dragon is. Usually on the other side.
I saw a hot take on that the other day that I loved. Dragons are insects.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah, so, okay, so here's the point. Every vertebrate, so that's anything with a spine in life, has 4 limbs. Dragons have 6 limbs. They have wings and they have, well, unless it's a wyvern, they have 6 limbs, which means dragons are insects. Also, the only creatures in nature we see spit anything close to fire is the bombardier beetle. So, it's an insect.
But didn't you tell us about that the whole Tolkien
Yes,
kind of rule?
Tolkien's a
dragon has a lair, and a wyvern don't. They just have a nest.
Well, there's that, and then wyverns tend to be more bestial than dragons do.
Oh.
So they're less intelligent. The real thing that defines a dragon is, generally speaking, that dragons are important to the story.
Got you.
Yeah.
Today we learned, chat.
Today I learned. Let's just check this. I want that darker. Still. Yeah, I think that works very nice. Yes, the textures will very much do that. They will very much merge in on the handle a lot of the time. So that is one of those things to note inside Blender. If you are painting on your 3D model, what you are actually doing is you're projecting color onto the onto your 3D model based on your camera. So that means if something is blocking your brush, so if let me just put up my strength here. If I paint here, if something's blocking my brush, it means that that will be used as a stencil. So you'll get these hard transitions on things. And that is why I like to paint on my UV unwrap, because that just allows me to avoid having to clean up a bunch of mess all the time. I do still go in and paint on the model, but in general, I try to avoid it. Just gonna go in here, just gonna pick this a little bit, do these bunch of teeny jabs. I'll pull this down. I can pull in some sharpness here. And yeah. So as you can tell, this is pretty much a done texture at this point. It's not, there's a bunch of work in it. But from here on out, all the tools I've given you, all the tools I've talked about, are actually the tools one would use to complete a texture, complete a stylized texture like this. If all of you here physically, if you want to get this file at home and try it again, I think the link you posted on the YouTube channel will actually be there for 24 hours, so you can download it once you get home and just go ham, try it yourself. And
rewatch the stream again.
Yes, Christian would like you to rewatch the stream. It's good for the view count. Not that I think we're monetized on YouTube, but
Alpha, I don't know if you're watching the chat right now, but Miguel is also saying, what about camels or the one bump like llamas? They spit. So can we confirm that now the dragons are?
the dragons, well, oh, yes, so dragons are llamas or they're insects. You choose. I don't think that counts, because that's just because they lick their fur off their body. It's not because they're generating that inside them. I guess they are growing their own hair, but not inside themselves. So, yeah, no, I'm not buying. I might buy the llama alpaca thing. I'm not buying the cat one.
The llama. Camels are dragons.
Yes, this is good. So yeah, camels. Oh, so I don't know if you guys want to hear a disgusting fact. So I recently learned from a historian friend of mine, chlamydia was not a thing in Europe or in people before Christopher Columbus went to Southern America, and there's proof that chlamydia originates in llamas. So do with that what you will, but again, there's no skeletal evidence that it was in the native South Americans before Christopher Columbus came around, and then extrapolate that to most, what are they called? Koala bears also have chlamydia. So it's not a one-time thing. It's a chain of horridness in human history. Yeah, no, I'm not a big fan of it either.
God, Chelsea.
I was cursed with this knowledge, and now so are you.
Thank you. Christmas came early this year, huh?
Yeah.
Leonie, I'm asking the same. How do people know that? Good question.
It's, I don't know. you meet weird people in the world and who have weird knowledge, and it's just amazing and horrifying at the same time. And especially in our industry, the 3D guys will have the most random knowledge in the world because they will need, for a specific task, they will need to know something, and then they will figure absolutely everything out about it to make sure it's correct before a designer or a director will come and tell them to redo it because it doesn't look good, but they will have it look correct. So I had that happen firsthand to me. I did, actually on my exam here at CADA, many years ago now, I did a dinosaur where I simulated all the muscles on it, like the muscles to move underneath. I based it all on a PhD study. And then my censor came in, who was a director from the film school, and said, I don't like the look of its scales. It's ugly. I was like, but it's based on the imprints that the scales were left in a mud bed. It's like, this is as anatomically correct as we can get. This isn't made for Jurassic World, it's made for documentaries. Yeah, but it's ugly. Yes.
I would definitely say that is one of the qualities also here at the school, is
Yes.
like, because when we give critique to each other, it's not just like, I don't like it. It's actually like a proper like feedback and critique you're getting. It's like, for example, let's say that you made these like anatomically correct muscles and stuff. Maybe there could be way more implemented into that. Just like, I don't like it. It could be like, maybe we should increase the sizes around the shoulders, or so maybe the triceps or the biceps would go completely different. Or
Yeah.
Mito is hijacking the mic. Bye, chat.
Hi. Okay. So we got a good question.
Yes.
That is related to. I'm sorry. Can I take over?
Yeah, sure.
Mind?
Go nuts.
Like
I'm
with
just enjoying.
also with your actual. I don't know how to use a pen. I'm gonna use the mouse. Okay. So a good point is that in the UV unwrap, when we talked earlier, that a good UV unwrap can make things a lot easier, and a bad UV unwrap can sometimes be a bit of a pain. So,
If you're gonna point that the part of the UV is outside, I already pointed that out
No.
twice.
so this. So
Ooh.
right now, you can
Oh,
see that
God.
we have two UV islands on top of each other. That means that when we're painting on this, that will be applied on two separate places on the actual sword because they're basically placed on top of each other. To fix that, the only way we can fix it is by, and it might fuck up some of your
Texture paint?
your texture painting. But what we want to do is that when you have this selected, basically, we want to go under this button at, or we can just do UV editing just as easy. I knew that. Totally knew that. So when we're in UV editing, we click one of these and then we press L. That basically allows us to select the whole object that we've selected. After we've selected the whole thing, we press G. That is the same as when we normally move things around in Blender. We do G. You can do the same with these UV islands. Then we basically want to move this away because right now they're on top of each other. So we're just going to, I guess, move it a bit down. And then right now they're still on top of each other because there isn't a lot of space. So we're going to select the other one as well and press L. Here's my keyboard. I only have the mouse. Sick. And then we press G again, like we did with the other one. We move it a bit so to make sure that they're not on top of each other. And then we basically separated them to make sure that the texture isn't repeated on both of them. So things like that you have to be careful of when you UV unwrap a model, that these islands aren't like placed on top of each other, because that might ruin it and annoy you when you paint. And that's it. Now that's applied, now we will be able to see on the actual model that I don't have.
It's these down here.
Oh, okay. So it's these down here. We can't really see it, but some of them might be a bit different because we've moved around the islands. Yeah, but that's fine. You can just paint over it, and it's all good.
Yep.
I just wanted to show that because that was a good question. Sometimes happens when you make models. It's all good. Cool. Bye bye. I'm out.
Yeah.
Was that too fast? Did that make sense?
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
All right. Let's see. That is very nice. All right, so let me just have a look over mine. Is there anything I want to change? I want to change this area. So let's just go and let's soften this down. That looks a lot better. Yes, Mito is a great teacher. I've actually been advocating for him to take over part of the boot camp for a while now, because I think it would be great to have the students teach. They are also, like, our students are the biggest proof that what we do is something we can take pride in, because our students are good and good enough. It's so good that they can actually explain what it is they're doing and what it is we are doing. So I have utmost confidence in having people, and this like, it might seem like I'm on the front, I am in the face, but everything else around me is run by the students, set up by the students. It is completely student run, and that is major kudos to them and their skill set. So see, that's a bit nicer. I think I want to add a bit of, do we want to add a bit of blood or dirt to the top? So we could definitely do that. Oh, people are already doing that. That's just lovely. Let's see. Oh, that doesn't look good. I'm a little bit afraid that the blood is just going to clash with my sword. So, all right. So we got 10 minutes left before Q&A portion. I really want to show you guys something. So, I talked earlier about this out here being our shader, our principled BSDF. Well, our shader is what we apply textures to. And if we go up into the top, we can actually switch to a shading workspace. Here we go. And this is the material preview or material properties we were looking at before. It's our principled BSDF. And as we can see here, we have a image plugged into the base color, deciding what that color looks like. The cool thing about this is you can use images like this to decide pretty much every factor of what an object should look like. So before, let me just make this a bit smaller, let's zoom in a bit, we were talking about your roughness, that if you turn down your roughness and up your specularity, your object will become super shiny. Why is this slow acting weird? Please, there you go, no. Yeah, it'll become super shiny, you can see it up here. And if you want to control that object specifically, all you need to do is do a black and white image and plug that into either roughness or specularity, knowing that white is 100% shiny and black is not 100%, or is 100% matte. So that means we can do and you can do any grayscale in between white or black. So this is going to be fairly quick. If I create a new texture here, let's see, there, new image. I'm just going to do the same, call this one spec, like so. You don't have to follow along, this is just like a little bonus extra thing. Let's fill out the last 10 minutes. We can say boop. So because we know we're piping this into the specularity, that's how shiny things are, we know any place that is white or gray will be 100% shiny, any place that is black will be not. So if I go, come on, there we go. I can now paint in a shiny bit. There you go. I can paint in a shiny bit at my blade, like so. And like so. Just the edge. Boop. And I will save this as well. Save as spec. So if we go back into our shading tab, we can find our specular and click on the little dot next to it. This will pull out a connection line. And when we drop that, it will give us a search function. In this search function, we're just going to type in image, texture, and you can see it gives you 3 options. We're just going to pick the color. Boop. And this will now be the image we have, or this is now a node that we can just put any image into, and it will now define what the specularity of our object is. So I can choose my spec. And what will now happen is the tip of my blade, let me see if I can find an angle for it. Come on. Oh, here. 100% rough. Don't want that. Let's do 0.5 by default. Or 0, actually, so you can really see it. Now you can see there's this place on my blade that is shiny, but down here it's not shiny, because this image is now controlling our specularity. Let's see. So this is if you want to do realistic textures, for example. Then you want to do metallic maps, you want to do roughness maps, you want to do spec maps, all these things. But just for today, I think this is enough of a mind-blowing thing that, oh, we can do color and material? Yeah, yes you can. Yes.
Hi. Question from the chat is that if there's a possibility that some of the viewers from home can render out either a picture or a video of their sword so they can share it on Discord, or would you recommend just a classic screenshot would do the trick?
Well, actually, okay, we got 5 minutes, so it might be a bit quick, but let us quickly set it up. So, in your 3D view space, you can press Shift and A, and then add in a camera, like so. You can press 0 on our numpad to go into the camera. And then in our view menu out on the side, I'm sorry if this is going a bit quick, but hope you're with me. We can lock the camera to view, which means we can now control what the camera sees. Zoom on out, like so. And then hit F12 and you'll start rendering. You'll need to set some lighting and stuff up to get things perfect, but this is basically how you quickly render. We will go further into this next week. No, we won't. No, we won't. That's what we used to do. Sorry, my bad. So yeah. So under the Shift A, you can also put in point lights and any other type of light, really. And these like to be fairly big, but this just allows you to give light, to render things out, all these things. It's great fun. Yes, all right, so last 30 minutes, Q&A portion. Miguel, you asked about education payment questions earlier. So standard payment method is once monthly, you pay a bit of the fee for the education. There's also, you can do every semester. You can also do everything up front, and that will actually unlock like a discount or something. I'm not part of the economics department, so I don't know what that discount is.
Yeah, that's sick.
But that's what I did.
Is that
back
if
in the day.
you pay everything at once?
If you pay everything at the start, you'll get a discount.
Okay. Don't have that money?
Yeah. So I worked at a graveyard and I saved up money for it. So I did that.
Makes sense.
Do you have a question or? Yeah. Oh, okay. Perfect. But yeah, so student payment, education payment stuff, we do our best to keep it affordable, but I also need to pay rent, and so does everybody else who works here, and the company needs to pay rent for a building, stuff like that. And most of the payment will actually be the student grant, and it is possible, we specifically set up the days so that it's possible to also have like a job on the side for you guys to have money to live for.
Yeah. Yeah, because we don't have homework and all that stuff. So usually everything's planned to the students being able to have time for everything at school. So when you go home, you can you're off basically, unless you obviously do want to do more work. That's all up to you. But yeah, so you do have time for a job on the side. Though for the did you say how much it is every month?
I did not because, like said, I paid everything up front, so I don't remember what it is
so,
every month.
We pay around 8,500 a month, but most of that.
So your standard SU grant is 7.5, if I remember correctly.
6.7, I think.
6.7, and on top of that, because we're a private school, you get a extra
8,750
per month. All right. But on top of that, because we're a private school, you get an extra 1,500, 1,600 on top of it.
Yeah, so you do get extra money, like bonus SU is what it's called. So the normal SU that you get and the bonus SU nearly takes off all of it. And then personally, I also take an SU loan, because then that means I pay off the whole school, and I have a bit of money for like rent and stuff, and then I have a small job on the side, and I have also saved up money from before I started. I worked with in a nursery, so I got a bit of money from there. But SU mostly takes off the whole price every month, which is very nice. So even though 8,500 sounds like a lot, it's not as noticeable, to be honest, in my opinion, when you're actually in this situation because of SU, which is very nice. But yeah, that's at least how I deal with the situation, and
a lot of our oh, sorry for speaking over you, by the way. A lot of our students actually find work within the industry at one point or another while they're here, which will get them money. I became a 3D print teacher while I was a student here, which paid me very, very well, and very handsomely.
Heck yeah.
But again, I had already paid everything off, so I got my SU and that.
Hell yeah. Question?
Yes.
I have a question.
Oh.
Like in case that if you have like work and you want to focus on the study, you can do this kind of balance, or is it difficult?
It's so if you have full-time work,
1.5 years, right? Or
it's 3.5.
Repeat the question.
So we're being asked if you have work and you want to participate, but you can't do it full time. We try to make as many allowances as possible, but there is certain, and this is from the state side, there are certain limitations on how much we can allow you to not be here, because you have to be studio active or study active as a full-time thing to be able to get the SU grant, and that's SU laws and stuff like that dictate that. We do give merit in case you're doing something relevant, but it's very much on a base-to-base thing or on a case-to-case thing. It's and it has to be like actually aligned to what we're doing.
Yes, but we do have school from 9 till 3 every day, where, well, either we have classes, or everyone's working in like group projects or other projects and stuff. So it is expected to be there from 9 till 3 every day. Until you get to later semesters, it's kind of different. Like for me, I work from 9 till 4 every day, but I take Monday off. So we only have four work days a week. So we have that extra day off to rest and stuff, and then we've obviously applied all those hours on all the other days, so we don't miss out. But yeah, usually it's still it's the 9 till 3. That school is
Can I add on to
happening.
that?
Yeah, go on.
All right, cool.
IT guys taking over.
All right, that's cool. I'm just gonna stay off screen here. So usually what people do here at the school is that they get like what is called a part-time job, probably between in a range of like between 10 to 20 hours, depending on what kind of bills you're paying on the side, because we do acknowledge that it is a paid school, and in Denmark it is quite unusual that you have to pay for a school. But this, as they said, is a private education. But what people usually find the great solution is that between 10 to 20 hours a week is what that really gets the mill going. That is something that is also very because the school respect that after 3 o'clock you do have an adult responsibility, of course. So bills needs to be paid. So if that's the way to make the project works, then absolutely. Usually we also see some here from the school that they like to stay after hours, but then they plan accordingly, with their workplace. They know it's just like, all right, I'm going into like a busy time period where we're going to do a lot of hand-ins, or it's going to be like a big project based where a group is depending on you. But that is just like in every other scenario in other schools that, then in advance that in a month, all right, I'm just going to talk to my boss and let you know, just like, all right, those 2 weeks is going to be a little bit difficult, but let me just crunch some hours in the weekends or something like that, so you know that you can stay after school. But it's all about the work-life balance, so it is a great way. So yeah.
Sick. Was that a crack?
Yeah. I'm super stiff.
That's crazy. So yeah, that's it. Oh, that's economy.
Economy. Yeah. Any other questions?
First question back.
The worst part about streaming, right, is the fact that when you ask questions and there's a delay.
Yeah.
It's like even if there aren't any other questions, it's like you're still sitting there waiting.
Yeah.
Stiff.
Yeah. No. Hey, Tommy.
Oh yeah. It's
IT.
Yeah. So.
Any questions from here in the room? Are they completely interested in their awesome sword?
I can swing my sword.
Scimitar, sorry.
Otherwise, you ready? All right. Podcast.
Oh dear God. Okay. What did you prepare something for today?
I actually didn't. So we're gonna.
That's
Did someone math have?
So,
reading?
because you're a student, you actually have ungdomskort.
That's 500 and
Which is 510
that
per
opens
month.
up to all zones.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that is a little bit extra.
I get I have a ungdomskort, so I pay that. What is it, like 600 and something
Yeah.
a month, and then I can take public transport as much as I want in like all of Zealand.
Zone 1 till 99, right?
Yeah, from Zone 1 till 99, which is quite nice. So you wouldn't have to pay 4,000 kroners a month for Reisekort if you can just have ungdomskort.
Yep.
It'll save you a lot of money. So that's quite nice. Otherwise, bike, I don't know. if you live in Copenhagen, at least. If you don't, it might be a problem.
I had a classmate who did that from Roskilde once.
Biked
Yes.
every day?
He did it for 2 weeks, and then he sort of started taking the train again.
That makes sense. All right. So it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably don't bike.
Or you know what? Take the train and meet the head of education on the train every Tuesday and Friday.
Oh wait, does he take that as
Yep.
well? He's a very chill dude. Our head of education is like, he's a buddy.
Yeah.
He's great fun. He's really good at talking as well. lots of fun conversations there.
Oh yeah, just amazing.
Yeah. All right, let's talk podcast.
All right. So
I don't have one ready, but here's a topic, right?
yeah,
Favorite semester.
favorite semester. Ooh, that's a tough one. So things have changed.
Yeah, they have.
So
So,
when I went here, I was part of the student council because I'm a giant nerd.
Same.
Yay.
So-
One of the great things is whatever complaints we had and whatever like grievances we had and we brought to the student councils, we were then looking at the class that started after us and going, they're getting all the things we complained about. And of course, it doesn't help me.
That's what we do.
Yeah, and it doesn't help us, but it does help the school to get better every year.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's changed a lot.
Yeah.
Because of that.
So from that, like I really like third semester because I like the master classes.
Right.
I completely I know rigging is always one of those hard ones in third semester where people are a little bit like, oh, it's so technical, it's so difficult.
Yeah.
I just spent an entire summer reading up on rigging, so when we got to the
Damn.
master class in rigging, I'd
were
already do
ready.
it.
Sick.
Yeah, because it turned out to be exactly the same thing that I've been studying. So that was super easy for me.
Absolute nerd.
Yeah.
That's great.
No, I really like third.
I get that. It hasn't changed a lot.
No, it's still master classes, and
Yeah.
it's still amazing because you really get to go into depth with things that you're more interested in.
Yeah. Also, just to give a bit more information when it comes to student council and stuff. So our school has a student council with 2 representatives per year, like every class, where we get to pretty much complain about anything that we aren't satisfied with at the school, and then they will actually do something about it, which is very nice because we feel like we have a voice compared to other types of educations. We actually have a pretty big impact. That's why from his year, what year were you? 16? 15?
15.
10? Oh, okay.
Wow.
You're old.
I'm still in my 20s,
you were what?
yo.
15?
15 or 16, yeah.
Okay, one of those. So the school has changed a lot, not only 3D related, but also the way that it's being taught. Because I'm also in the student council, and the things I complain about, I also see the next class have, and I'm like, I wish I had that. And at this point, it's like now it's just the prime time to start, because now I'm just seeing all the things that I wasn't as satisfied with, and seeing that has changed for the new classes, and now I'm like, oh, so retake the education, maybe no, but yeah, it's really cool to see how it actually changes over time. A lot has happened. I'm really jealous, to be honest.
But are you still happy with where you are?
Oh yeah, no, I'm doing great, but and humble. No, no, but it's very nice to have that voice at the school. They're very good at doing that and listening.
First submission.
Oh,
Discord.
Ooh, I like
that's
that's a
nice.
very nice jade effect.
That's a poison sword.
It's jade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but that still gives off poison vibes, you know.
And you see even the tiny like inscriptions down on the handle as well.
I like
Nice.
that.
That's
That
a good
is
one.
Very nice.
So keep them coming.
Yeah. Please send your stuff in the Discord. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so semesters. So each semester is focused on different things.
Yeah.
First semester is mostly, if you haven't looked at the website, first semester is mostly introduction.
Yes. First semester is making sure that everybody is at the same level.
Yeah.
So some people come in and they've been interested in 3D for a while, so they've taught themselves how to use 3D.
Yeah.
Some people start from scratch because, well, they might not have known it before they realized, holy shit, this is a thing they can do. Sorry, pardon my French. But it's a thing you can do. So first semester is making sure that everybody has the same knowledge and everybody's at the same level, because there's also a lot of people who are self-taught, but they're missing bits of knowledge here and there that are critical to actually be able to function inside both the industry and in group work.
Yeah.
Second semester, we throw you guys into your first project. And the wonderful Christian that you guys have been introduced more to today,
IT guy.
our IT guy, is in the middle of his second semester, and they're doing the first game project, the first real group work, where they are being introduced to Unreal and being told, make us a game. It's free range, make us a game.
Heck yeah. Which is very fun to see. I was going to say something. I forgot. Oh, yeah. In the different classes, a lot of people, they're scared of not knowing, like, they don't want to start because they feel like they don't know enough, or like they're very bad at computers and stuff. But we've had people in our classes who's barely ever touched a PC, and the fact that they can still catch up and learn everything that everyone else does is very impressive, to say the least. So if you are worried about not knowing enough and stuff, don't be, because you will be taught everything. That's what the first semesters are for. You will be introduced to everything. You will catch up to the people who's maybe been sitting in it for a couple of years even. There's plenty of time to learn everything, especially when you have guidance, because that's a big thing. Because everyone could technically learn it at home by themselves, like being self-taught and stuff, but you also develop a lot of bad habits. And your workflow doesn't become as smooth compared to if you have guidance, such as our education. I personally don't think I would have been able to like have the motivation and self-discipline and workflow as I do now if I hadn't. So it's really nice to have that extra help that you can get. But yeah, so you will learn everything pretty much. So yeah, that's very nice. Question from
No,
Not
I just
question.
want to add on to it.
I see.
Yeah, I just want to point out one thing, because as someone who hasn't really touched like a 3D program before I came here, I usually just like I did photography, and I did love to draw and do graffiti and stuff like that. Legal, I have to disclaim that. But one thing that I really appreciated about the class that I'm in is that the people who are way more experienced is actually very, very keen to like go over and just like look over your shoulder and really just like share their knowledge. There's nothing like, first, second, or third prize, like, oh, I am the best or something like that. We really have like this kind of motto in our class, is like, knowledge is power and sharing is caring. So, if you're struggling with something, you would definitely have someone from one of your classmates that is like coming over and just be like, oh, have you maybe tried this? Or you should maybe try and go in that direction. And I feel like that is such a great opportunity. Instead of just like, whoa, I'm the best, I'm number one, I ain't gonna tell you one thing from and I think that's amazing, like, that you do that. So yeah.
Also, he's like incredibly good at Unreal. Like I've seen some of it. Like he made an interior scene of like this train thingy that looked freaking amazing. I think they also posted it on Instagram.
It's going to be posted.
It's going to be posted.
It is on
Instagram. Is it?
It is.
Yeah.
Alright.
Okay. Like that's his first time touching Unreal. And he's just like, that's annoying. Because it looks so good. And it's like, I haven't sat a lot in Unreal. Because you can't really animate in Unreal, and I mostly just do animation. But looking at his stuff is just, that's naughty. No, that's so good, man.
And you are a sweetheart. I love you, man. Thank you.
It's great. We
Don't
had
make me blush on camera.
he said, "Don't make me blush on camera." We had a question. Is there anything planned for the open house thing? Is it like a tour or more space to ask questions? So yes, you will have a lot of time to ask questions.
There's also a tour.
There is also a tour. So the first hour, as far as I remember,
it's a presentation. It's a tour. It's an opportunity to talk to management and the people who will generally facilitate your journey. Like teachers, we teach, or we give you the opportunity to learn, the opportunity to be taught, but management facilitates your journey in the way that makes sure that everything runs smoothly for you.
Yeah. And then after that, we have those stations of students showing off their work, where you can come and look at everyone and talk to people, students, ask questions, even more questions. Yeah, and then after that we have bootcamp again. That starts again an hour later, and we will do animation. So that's the schedule for open house on next Thursday. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Right. Is there any questions from the classroom? I know it seems like we're speaking a lot to the stream, but I also want to allow you guys to ask questions if you want to. You don't have to speak into the microphone, but we will repeat it so that people at home can follow.
Is there any scenarios where you don't use texture paint?
So the question is there any scenarios where you don't use texture paint? Yes. You can use full-on shaders. The problem with full-on shaders is they become very heavy, especially if you have a full scene of shaders where everything is generated per frame. Because that's the problem with shaders is even though you've set them, they will be generated per frame, and that means if everything has a unique shader, they will be needed to be generated before you render every frame, so that's just going to take a lot of time. Texture painting is a lot quicker and makes things run smoother. It's also generally why you don't use shading, like shading networks that generate images inside computer games, because that just messes up the entire render pipeline.
But usually we do use programs such as Substance Paint and stuff that makes the process of texturing a lot easier. That is like procedural, so you could take that texture and put it on anything, right? Rather than sitting here and physically doing it by hand. Then it becomes a lot more technical.
Yeah.
Because you can like put like a material or a shade of like really metallic material, and then you basically have like a sword, right? So we do a lot of that rather than hand painting things. We don't do that a lot, or depending on the style, of course. I don't do a lot of hand painted stuff because I don't really have any experience with. Well, I don't draw. I can't draw for B. No, I cannot draw. So I never really spent the time on learning the whole hand painting things. But other types of painting or texturing is there too to make some good things. Yeah.
Yeah. And just for anybody who's confused, the difference between texturing and shading is texturing is a image applied to a 3D object.
Like we have here.
Like we have here. Shading is procedurally generated, so it means it's generated on the fly. Like when you're looking at it, it's actually computer generated. So there's nothing in it that is static per se. So there is that definition of you have texturing, you have shading. And shading has a double meaning. It's either how do things react to light inside our scene, or it is the procedural network that will generate you an image.
So for shading, you technically don't need an unwrap because the computer kind of just tells it, hey, this is what it's supposed to look like when you put a shader on it.
Yeah, so I actually have a basic one here that I can reuse for... come on. There you go. That I can reuse here. Don't need you, but I can use you and put that in there. Oh, let me... It's just taking a little time. Blender being Blender. Now you can see I have this normal, or this noise map that is now being generated as a color. I can actually just pipe in the color and you can see that a lot clearer. Doop. Come on. Thank you, Blender. There you go. You can see I have all these variations of color. I can take that noise map and I can take it through 4 or 5 other nodes, and I can then turn it into different output materials. Like I can turn it into wood. I can turn it into like metal surfaces, stuff like that. But it all becomes very heavy for a computer to handle if everything has it. One object won't be very difficult. 16 objects, you'll probably still be fine, but as soon as you start breaching a few hundred, you're gonna have an issue.
It's gonna be rough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When in the render image,
And thanks for being here and talking as well. Stinastri?
Stinastri, yes.
Cool. Butchering that. Really appreciate everyone being here. Look at that. You made it. It's crazy.
Yeah, Jasmine is just trying to save. And that is when you have your render image or render view image, save as. You can't see me pointing at the screen. Image and then save as.
Oh yeah. Sick.
Yeah.
How did you get into the render view then?
F12.
Cool.
So, all right. Well, if nothing else, let's give you guys off 6 minutes early. And I will see you next week, an hour later. Remember that for you guys at home. And for you guys here, I hope you will join us at our open house. And you will enjoy it a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, have a nice one. Thanks.
To import that results in a video game system, we need to bake in the texture.
Yes. So,
Like the bake texture.
yeah. So we were just being asked here, final question, to use shader networks in, for example, a computer game, because shader networks do not transfer between programs. You used to be able to take Blender shader networks into Unity,
Exactly.
but I think that's a few years ago you could do that. Apart from that, you do need to bake them down.
We add the same program to create a particle system in Unity.
A particle system in Unity? Yeah, you can't transfer particle systems in.
And proprietary particle system.
Yeah. Yes, Unity has, most programs will have their own particle systems. If the program is advanced enough, they will have a way of exporting it as a VDB. Voxel database, something, which will be transferable because it's technically a simulated geometry point cloud thing. Most softwares can transfer that back and forth. Your result may vary, because some of the settings won't be able to transfer. So.
It's okay, we use the alpha channel to create effect like such as particle system.
Yes, yeah, you can.
I'm import the PNG animation in plane.
Yeah.
The channel alpha.
Yeah.
And I have the same results.
Yes. Yeah. So if you're doing particle systems in different engines and different computers, stuff like that, then if you have a PNG that is your particle that you then want to spray out in different ways, that will work across different things because that's a fixed image. The emitter that will make the particles, though, will need to be set up individually. Unless there's likely, like Blender has a billion plugins on Blender Marketplace, you can likely find a plugin that is called Blender to Unity or Blender to Niagara, which is Unreal's. So that is probably possible. Jasmine is asking Unity or Unreal for my first video game.
Unreal.
Unreal.
Big time. Unreal.
I am an Unreal person, so I will say Unreal.
Yep.